Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Continuing my backlog, I decided to continue the Mafia franchise by playing the second game, Mafia 2 the Definitive Edition. A pretty straightforward name. I enjoyed this game far more than I realized, even more than Mafia Definitive Edition with the better graphics and cinematography. Even though I was sorely disappointed when I boot up the game due to the graphics, I just thought it was another remake, but sadly, it's just a remaster. Although I think the graphics is just okay. I can tell the texture are more high res. I cannot tell if it's just upscaled or they made a genuine new text, but it kind of looks upscaled. So there is that argument of being a lazy remaster, especially considering the issues later. Anyway, the facial animation was also meh. I mean, it isn't a fair comparison since Mafia Definitive Edition and 2 are almost a decade apart, and 1 is built from the ground up using modern technology. What won me over was the story. I find it more gripping and cohesive than Mafia the Definitive Edition. Even though Mafia Definitive Edition has more chapters, I feel like the chapters in Mafia 2 is more packed with moments and let the chapters breathe than the previous game, where it felt like just jumping too far between chapters, especially if you see the date where it's so far apart. The relationship with Vito and Joe is way more engaging than Tommy, Sam, and Polly. I get the feeling of Vito and Joe's brotherhood, which I did not with Tommy, Sam, and Polly. I also think the world is denser here, as I can memorize the road, kind of compared to the previous game where locations feel further than it needed to be and there is no memorable point of interest, whereas Mafia 2 is denser in a way where it's not too small, too big, and it's just way more, it's easier to memorize. But Mafia 2 is also guilty of feeling like a driving simulator, as majority of the game you'll be driving to point A and B, and some even with a time limit. But I don't know, I feel like I get the Mafia vibes more with this game than the previous. Like the task feels more dark and gritty. The betrayal and the mole feels like more at stake. I was surprised that Vito had a lot of ups and downs, especially with the prison time and the house being burned down. The story about his family felt more realistic to me, as this is how I expect the consequences of being in the mafia to be like. And mafia bosses being jerks are also a plus, as it is expected of them. And overall, characters are just more memorable, even the side ones or people in just one chapter. Another unexpected thing I liked was the hand-to-hand combat, as it is pretty straightforward. I had a pretty fun time with it, but let's talk issues. The bugs. I'm quite lucky to not have faced game-breaking bugs, but I had problems with the dialogue where multiple recordings was playing over each other, so it kind of overlaps. Luckily, there was the subtitle, so I can keep up, but it was far in between. And another issue, which is not really a bug, but the world just feels empty, like the previous game, where it feels like you cannot do anything outside of customizing your car, buying clothes. You know, that's the usual. There is no side hustle, side business, or any other extracurricular activity that revolves around mafia. So when Vito loses his house and loses all his money, I did not really feel anything because I know the next chapter he's gonna have a lot more money. And also the police. The police are so annoying here. Why are they so overzealous for speeding? Like we get killed just for speeding. I just feel like this is an overall better game, even from the storytelling perspective. I recommend this for anyone. If you are blown away by Mafia Definitive Edition, I feel like you'll be blown by this way more due to the story, as the story really carries this game. Think that it's way more important than just HD graphics and better physics and all that. If the story doesn't carry the game, you know, it'll be just like when I played Mafia Definitive Edition, where I just kind of yawn and kind of get bored. And the relationship doesn't really feel believable. They kind of tell instead of showing, because most of the events that happen in Definitive Edition feels like in the between. I feel like the in-between stories of the chapters are more interesting because they just tell us like, oh, did you remember this time when where we almost died, blah blah blah. It's like, show us. Like I would rather see that event happening rather than you telling us, and we get to play a boring version, or worse, like nothing related and it's just a boring segment of the game. Also, a big plus, there is no racing in this game. take that with what you will. So if you are convinced by this review, I recommend just buying the whole trilogy. I mean, it's pretty cheap if you bought it and sale on Steam. Like, that's how I got it. So thank you for watching. And as for the next video, I don't know yet.